It's time for another episode of the Restaurant Growth Accelerator. This is a podcast for restaurant owners by restaurant owners, because most restaurant owners work way too many hours for way too little profit and miss out on the family time that they can never get back. I don't want that to be you. So we're here to help you grow your sales, get your profitability to 15% and beyond, and be in a position where you can open more locations while still having time for your family. Let's dive in. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Restaurant Growth Accelerator podcast. I am Andrew Scott from Ownership, and today we've got a treat. We have Annie Clem with us, and Anne has been working with us for a little while, I think about 5 months or so now. But what's crazy about her journey is that she has been able to go from 80 hours a week in the business down to 20 hours a week inside the business, and on top of that, she's been able to take control of her life, and she's actually dropped 55 pounds. So really kind of going on a health journey as well. And so we're here to talk about that. So Anne, tell me a little bit more about, I guess let's go back a little ways. What got you into the business to start with?
I like to cook. My husband did competition barbecue. I was a hairdresser for 32 years. And so people kept saying, oh, you should open a restaurant. So I did. I knew nothing. And so I knew I had a good product. And, I had worked at Dairy Queen as a kid. That was my experience in a restaurant. So I just thought, I'm a type of person. I wanted to do it. I didn't want to go to my grave and not have done something that I wanted to do. So I started a restaurant.
Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. And tell us a little bit about your restaurant. Where is it? What kind of food do you serve? Yeah, just give us a little info.
We are located in Central Illinois, Bloomington, Illinois, and we are a barbecue restaurant where we are actually a carry out and catering. So we don't have a sit down. It's all carry out. And we do a lot of catering, all homemade food, all great barbecue.
Okay. Beautiful. I love barbecue. I can't say that I can cook barbecue myself, but maybe I'll have to give you and your husband a call. You guys can give me some lessons on that. But tell me a little bit more about kind of the journey, because you were mentioning that, life in the restaurant. How long have you guys been doing this so far?
6.5 years.
Okay. And so things have been a little bit crazy from what you were just telling me before we hopped on here. Tell me a little bit more about that. What was the journey like in the restaurant to get, kind of before you found ownership, and what life was like?
Yeah, the restaurant, starting out, it was a little, I wouldn't say it was slow, but, the first few years I didn't take a dime out of the restaurant. And then we started getting busy, and, the word was out. And then 2 years into it, we adopted our granddaughter, and that was kind of crazy. And then my son had some issues. He's fighting some cancer in the last 2 years. And then I lost my manager, and in March, and I felt like my arms had been cut off. And by the time I found ownership, I was ready to sell. I actually had called a broker, and he still emails me to this day. How you doing? Because he knows that the business is very successful. So, but I can remember talking to Brett when I watched all kinds of videos. They were coming over my emails and what have you. And when Brett talked to me, he probably thought, oh my gosh, I need to call 911 for this gal. I was a mess. I mean, I can remember sitting in the corner of my restaurant in tears talking to him, because it was tough. It was a tough time in my life. I would sit with my kid while he was getting chemo doing paperwork, because I had to work all the time. I could never separate and just be present for my kid, and that was really hard. It also affected my marriage. It affected my time with my granddaughter. I was never fully present for anybody.
Yeah. Well, let's go back a little bit. So, sitting in that room while your son is getting chemo. I mean, for those who have went through cancer, my grandmother unfortunately passed away with cancer. We've had people on our team go through the battle with cancer, and it is difficult in the best of circumstances, And then on top of that, to have the weight of a restaurant again without a manager, it's like, how do you manage those things that both need all of your attention? Because like our business was supposed to give us a life that we could be proud of, and that we could have money and have it work for us instead of us work for it. And then somehow most owners get into it, and it's the total opposite. So I just want to understand a little bit more. I mean, in those times, what pulled you through that? I mean, like what kept you going? Because I just can only imagine what that must have been.
Well, I was born with a lot of drive. I mean, I've got drive, I've got a drive for myself and everybody else that, so I know that's part of, I worked for 3 weeks with a broken foot. That's just my constitution, is I just work, so,
Okay.
tough when I was doing it with him, because I had guilt. I don't, you can still have drive, but you have guilt on top of it. It was difficult.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And so I got to ask you a question, if I can put my coaching hat on for a second. So knowing that we have that drive, and you worked for 3 weeks with a broken foot at one point, I got to ask sometimes now, has that drive and determination, which, my mom would tell me is stubbornness. But basically, what I would say is that can be a real asset at sometimes, but I would also say, has that ever, maybe prevented you from making changes when you need to, or maybe doing something the wrong way a little bit too long when there might have been a different way? I don't know. What's your thought on that?
I don't know if I've done things the wrong way. I probably am a little bit too much for some people. I know that, that because I am so, let's get it done kind of person. So, even my family members that sometimes, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Let's get going. So, but for me to have a breakdown with Brett, that was pretty intense for me.
Well, I can only imagine, because I mean, it seems like you're the rock of so many other people, and then at some point that just kind of hit a wall almost.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. I mean, I remember this one story. So I don't share this one a lot, but it's funny. So I was sitting in my restaurant, my very first restaurant one time, and it was Christmas Eve. And I remember sitting at one of the tables on Christmas Eve, and there's no customers coming in because, I mean, it's Christmas Eve. Everyone's with their family. But meanwhile, I'm there because I can't close because there might even be one order that comes in. And we were so strapped for cash at the time. Like, I don't even know if it was worth having the power on it that night. But I was there nonetheless. And I remember, just because I had some time, so there's no customers coming in, I called the guy who was the CEO of the franchise I was a part of at that time. For some reason, this guy answers. His name's Chris. And he literally answers. And I remember he's there like with his family on Christmas Eve. And I'm there like bawling my eyes out, just being like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I don't know how to make this better. And anyway, I remember just being, having my own breakdown moment. And to be honest, I thought about just quitting everything and going and, getting a job somewhere else. But then, I had a loan, and I, would have ended up going bankrupt. And anyway, so it was tough. But I mean, those are moments that really bring you to your knees sometimes. And I don't think people understand, the stress and pressure that a lot of owners are under, because people like us, we don't let it show.
Yep.
Right. It's rare that we let it show. And I think that in some cases that can be a good thing because it's what gets us through. But the reason I asked the question to you earlier is because sometimes it's a bad thing, because we can just keep on doing the same thing, hoping that it's going to work. I picture it to like, you're trying to break down this wall and you keep running into it and you keep running into it and you keep running into it instead of stepping back and realize there's a door 2 feet away we could have walked through. So I see people do that so often in business. They keep trying the same things, and anyway, so that was me. It took me 10 years to figure a lot of things out before I really started to make the progress. But it was 10 years of 80+ hour weeks for me. And you were mentioning you were doing about 80, 90 hour weeks. You said you started at 4 a.m. and when did you end
midnight
on a daily basis?
Midnight, I would say. I got to go to bed because I got to get up at 4 and I got to do this all over again. So, it's, the weight that you have when you have 20 some people working for you that need their job. And then also your pride. It's a pride issue. Yeah. You don't want to give up, so you keep on keeping on, as me and my husband say, but
so what else are you going to do?
Exactly. Go crawl up in a corner. That's not my That's not who I am. So, but that's why, all those emails and the videos just intrigued me. I thought, "Oh, I want some freedom from this place, you know?
Yeah, and it's so interesting too. And I mean, I'm glad I was as, I don't want to say naggy's the wrong word, you know what I mean, but persistent in emailing you, and just putting out those things. And there's so many people that look at me and say, Andrew, that's crazy, that's impossible, there's no way that could happen. I'm sure that you might have fallen into that camp at some point, saying, oh, there's no way I could work less hours with the way things are right now. Is that something that came out of your mouth at some point, or entered into your head?
The first time that I met with Brett, my husband was with us, and I actually had to stop the meeting and say, we will talk tomorrow, because he was the one saying, yeah, we know all that. We know that you need to do this and you need to do that. And I was just like, and there were so many things going on. People were walking in, they weren't supposed to be. And I was like, Brett, I'm really sorry, but we've got to pick this up tomorrow, because he was not on board. He was just ready to take the weight from me and fix it. Cause that's what guys like to do. They like to give you the solution. Yep. And that wasn't the solution for me. I knew that, I had to at least try something. Somebody smarter than me knew how to do it, so I've always put people in positions that are smarter than myself, so, and I knew after watching several of them and the emails, I could have easily just deleted the email. So I'm the one who opened the email, so because I knew there was something to it. So
yeah, I mean, and that's what I try and get through to people, because a lot of people don't believe that they can have the type of profit margins that they can. A lot of people I tell this to my team, like, unfortunately, restaurant owners, pardon my French, but are used to their lives being so shitty, because that's the way that the business has been structured, because people don't know any better and they don't know how to do it any better. Like when we talk about hiring, they don't know how to hire better people. So they end up taking whoever comes in, and let's face it, they're usually the people that we shouldn't have working for us, right? They might not be the right fit. And so we end up doing that because we don't know any other way. And so it just gets to a point where they're just used to it, and they just kind of accept their fate. Okay, well, this is just going to be my life now. I'm just going to work until I die, or I'm going to sell. And for most businesses out there, yours might be an exception, but for most businesses, people usually don't sell for the amount that they think they can sell for in a lot of cases, because a lot of times when people are trying to sell, it's usually because it's not making money, and businesses sell based on cash flow. So anyway, it's a different scenario, but I want to fast forward a little bit. So you came on with us, I think it was about August, and we started working on some things. And so just tell me a little bit more about this 55-pound drop. I mean, 55 pounds is a significant amount, and it takes effort and it takes time. And the reason I focus in on this is because I went through a similar weight loss journey, because I put on so much weight in my early days, because I was eating fast food every night because I cooked for everybody else all day. I didn't want to cook for myself. So I would go and stop by, a fast food joint on the way home. And that's how I survived for years. And I was on my feet all day running around. But somehow I put on 100 pounds in a couple of years. So I eventually had to take that once my business got a little bit better, and I decided I'm going to prioritize myself and take the steps that I had to. So just tell me a little bit more about that for you, because that really piqued my interest when we were talking about it.
The first thing was that one of the first things that I was taught with you guys is to schedule stuff, to put it down on paper, to write down what you're going to do, when you're going to do it. And my coach, she was so good as far as even saying, you are stressed and you need to take time in the morning, first thing, and whatever it is that you need to do for yourself, whether it's meditating, a devotion, breathing, yoga, whatever fits, and you need to schedule it, and you need to be there, and you need to show up because you're important. And, I know I'm important, but I couldn't even stop. As I was reading, I was thinking of everything else that I needed to do. So I knew, reading's not it, because I can't even focus on reading. So it started with just even breathing and sitting in a chair and being able to totally not do anything for 5 minutes. 5 minutes was like the longest 5 minutes.
I was going to say, that sounds like forever for
Oh,
someone with your
it was
personality.
so long. But now I'm to the point where I get out of bed first thing and I give myself about 20 minutes, and it's doing whatever it is that I need to do for that morning to get myself motivated to do the next thing. And then, we did that. That was the scheduling part. And then I felt like I need to go to the doctor. I just don't feel good. And I found out I had prediabetes, and was told very, very bluntly, which I love because that's what I am. I'm blunt. Just tell me the truth. He said, you're full blown. You need to take care of this now. And so he gave me the tools and said, this is what you need to do. Now, whether you do it or not, it's up to you. Most people don't. And he told me that I needed to cut all sugar, all soda, all diet soda, and that I needed to cut gluten out of my diet. And so those are the things that I did. And I just, really chose better things. So then, the mornings started becoming, my 5 minutes got longer with my meditations. And then pretty soon I added exercise to it. And so that's, I take care of Ann first, because if my tank's not full, nobody else's can get full if I don't take care of myself. Because I worked myself into a point where I was not good. I was not healthy. I was not, my relationships weren't good. I was snapping at employees, snapping at my husband, and so I'm now on my repair work of Ann and my relationships. So
yeah, and it takes time to go and make those repairs, as I've been through the same a similar scenario where work was always the thing. And I'm sure a lot of restaurant owners that are listening to this are going like, I wish I could take 5 minutes in the morning, because as we know, most of the time we wake up and there's a text message of someone saying, oh, can't make it today, or, oh, I quit. And like, I swear every time I would look at my phone, and this is, again, I had 4 locations. And so every time I would look at my phone, I would know how the text would start, or the email, like I could just see it. And I would just, like this one April Fool's, one of my managers actually sent us a resignation as an April Fool's joke. I swear I almost had a panic attack. I was just like, never do that again. Like, ever. Like that. Just, anyway, I had high blood pressure at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so, but it's a situation. Okay, so back to what I was saying was that it's just so hard to even take those few minutes in the morning, because as soon as you look at your phone, your stress goes up instantly, and all of a sudden you're right back into work. And so then it's really hard to do it. So maybe the lesson is, don't look at your phone for that, whether it be 10 minutes or whether it's whatever it is that you need, because you know what, like at the end of the day, that work, a lot of it's going to wait. And here's the thing. Someone told me this, and I thought they were crazy, but at the end of the day, like we made sandwiches, right? As my restaurant did. And so I'm like, you're not saving lives, like you're making sandwiches. Like nobody's going to die if you text that person 10 minutes later. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, like it's, this is not a life and death situation. You're not in a hospital. You're not a doctor. It's, so it was kind of interesting. That's how I viewed the world. And eventually I was able to, let's take a minute and not look at my phone right away and kind of come to the same conclusions. And just while we're on the topic of exercise, one of the things that I found really, really good for me is I used to do the stair climber at the gym. This is the thing I would do first thing in the morning. I would go to the stair climber and I would have a book on my phone, because if I listened to an audiobook, I found that I just lost my concentration too fast. So I would listen to podcasts when I was like doing strength training and weights. But when I was on the stair climber, because it's terrible, let's face it, it's, I hate it, but I was able to read, and I could have a book on my phone. I would just flip back and forth. And so that's something where I would actually get some reading done that would engage my brain and actually get me thinking of ways to improve the business and do things better. And I would also do exercise at the same time. So I'm always a big fan of, how do we do 2 things at the same time? How do we maximize, that time that we have? Because time is very precious. So that's just something that I found really beneficial. But for you, I want to jump into this too. So, taking the time for yourself was a key thing. What kind of changes were made in the business that got you down from those 80-hour weeks down to, you said, about 20 in the business right now, where you used to be in operations all that time? Now you're not in operations nearly as much. What are some things that changed? Hey, real quick, if you're a multi-unit restaurant owner or you're looking to become one, I've identified the 3 deadliest mistakes that are killing most restaurants right now. And more importantly, I'll show you how to avoid these exact mistakes. Just grab my free copy of the Multi-Unit Restaurant Playbook by going and clicking on the link in the description below. Inside, you'll discover my proven system for building a restaurant empire that runs on autopilot and the mistakes you must avoid if you want to stay profitable and scalable. So get the free playbook and transform your business today.
There's been several, just jumping on to a Q&A and reading the scrolling of all the different sayings that go on your screen. Those have just been so beneficial to me. You get what you how you hear I'm trying to say it.
You get what you tolerate.
Yeah, that's one of them. But you get what you inspect, not what you expect. That was a biggie.
Yes, that's another
delegation. Letting people do stuff. The other one was, I give the business 110%, but if I have 10 people, all giving 80, that's more than my 110%. Just knowing, that I could relinquish some of my control. That's, my personality. Like a control freak to go along with all the other good stuff I've got. So, having other people, the morning time, I don't have to worry about employees getting a hold of me in the morning because they have somebody else to get a hold of and send those stupid text messages to. And they're not even supposed to text. That's against the law in our restaurant. But somebody else is dealing with that, not me.
Yeah. So you're able to put someone in place to do the management. So that was a big piece off of your shoulders as well. And so what are some other things that changed, whether it be processes or anything like that? Oh, and just for everyone listening to what Anne's referring to is before every Zoom meeting, we actually have a little video that plays quotes that our coaching team has come up with that we found really impactful. So I should do a podcast just on the different quotes that we have up there. But it's always a good reminder. Because sometimes it's not what we need to learn or be taught. It's sometimes what we need to be reminded of that's the most impactful. Because we often in business, we're always trying new things, but sometimes we need to go back to the things that we knew that maybe we're not doing as well as we should be. So, but for you, what are some other processes, changes, things that really made an impact for you and help kind of reduce the hours in the business and help you get where you are now?
We went through our operational modules. That was huge for me. I didn't have, I had systems in my head. I had several just different checklists, but never really that somebody, I loved how it was told to me, somebody off the street could come in and do the job. And that's what I have now. I have systems that if you follow it, I can get a stranger to come in there and do the job. They could do it. They could make it through a whole shift with every process that we've got now. That's probably the biggest that we've gotten is that there is a way to do everything. And so thank you. I mean, that was huge. And just delegating that work, that is so important that people are in leadership positions, whether it's a manager or, just a lead. You're the lead. It excites people to say, I trust you with my business. I want you to do this, So what else has done change for me?
I was going to say, let's expand on the systems
they take
piece.
Pride in it too.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. So let's expand on the systems piece just a little bit here, because I think it's so important. A lot of people come in and they have a system. They're like, oh, I know what should be done. And it's in their head. And so I'll ask them and say, okay, well, how is Billy, who you hire tomorrow, going to know what to do? Oh, well, he should just know. Billy's not going to know. Right? Because it's in your head and Billy's not in your head. And you know what? And this is the thing, we have some veteran people as well that, work in restaurants, and they'll say, oh, well, I don't need to follow a checklist. I don't need to do that. And I say, well, you know what? Are you okay with picking up the slack for every new employee? Because that's what's going to happen. Because if you don't follow it, nobody follows it, and they're not going to be as good as you are. Right. And I'll be honest, even after 25 years in the restaurant business, both as an employee, as an employer, I found even I would follow a checklist because I get busy. My mind goes other places. Like I'm going to forget stuff. So even I did it. And if I do it, everybody should do it. But the point is, You want to have it so simple, exactly like you said, someone else can come in and literally watch it. And the example I use is they could come in and I'll give you an example. Say it says clean bathroom mirror. Well, how do we clean a bathroom mirror? What product do we use? Do we use paper towel or do we use, a rag or whatever? Do we wipe it in circle patterns? Do we wipe it around the corners? Like, there's so many different ways someone could interpret it. Do we clean it with toilet water? I don't know. I literally saw someone mop a table before, which is just beyond me. I wasn't at my restaurant, thank goodness. I saw it across the street. Someone mopped a table. Anyway, I wish I could have got a picture of it, but that was incredible. Anyway, but the point is, you don't know, and if someone's never done it before, right?
Right.
How are they going to know what to do it? Right. And so here, I always say common sense isn't common to someone who's never done it before. And so when we're talking about operations, we need to be specific. So we should say clean bathroom mirror with Windex and paper towel. We should make it so idiot proof that they're like, okay, I need Windex and paper towel. And then they should go to the back and there should be a label, Windex and paper towel. It should be labeled right where it is. So then they can go and do that task without anyone going through and making sure that they did it properly. And then if they didn't do it, there's really only one thing that I say to people. I'm like, hey, was there anything confusing about the way this was written? And they say, well, no. And you're like, okay, so then that's the way it needs to get done. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no, oh, well, Billy told me to do it this way, and so said this way. No, this is the way it's written. This is how you do it. Because we need to have clarity before you can have accountability. And that's just a huge thing that I think a lot of people don't understand, is that they try and say, oh, my employees, they don't do the right things. And I go back to say, okay, where is it written? How is it written? And if they didn't do it, how are they held accountable to it? And if those pieces aren't in place, then we have no right for them, to actually expect them to do it, because they're not going to be in your head. They're not going to be you. We have to set it up so that our employees can do it. So anyway, I love that piece of it, because people say, oh, we have checklists, or yeah, I've got a system, but is it clear enough? And if your team isn't doing it, it's either the clarity around it or it's the accountability around it. One of those two is off. We just need to find out which one it is and improve it. So I'm really glad you said that. It's just such a huge one for most restaurant owners. And we all think we do it well until all of a sudden we come in after we're gone for 7 days on a vacation. You come back in, you're like, what happened to my restaurant? Everything's out of order. And anyway, it's, that's a telling sign right there. But I guess we're nearing the end of our time here. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with everybody listening? Any other words of advice or things that can help inspire a restaurant owner who might have been in your shoes, having that breakdown or struggling with the personal life and the balance of the business as well?
Well, the system works. You got to work it. It's not going to be given to you. It's going to open up some things about yourself that, pretty raw, that you learn about yourself, the disc and, but be open to it, because it really does. It's like, it's a huge weight has been lifted off of me. And, this is good. I love to work. I shared that with you earlier, that I love to work, and I love to work when I'm not frustrated. And that is what, I don't have the level of frustration that I used to have in there. I realize people are people, things are going to happen. But I'm not frustrated anymore by it, because there's a system to fall back to. There's a grid to say, hey, where are you falling on this? We got to get, you figure it out. Make people accountable for themselves. I'm not accountable for them. I've given them their tools. And, fly with them, or, there's the door.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, right? Because there are other great employees that are out there that we haven't found yet. And most people struggle with finding them. But once you know how to do that, and there's other people there that can come and do the job and do it well, it allows you to let go of the underperformers and actually only have top performers. And when you have top performers, your business gets easier to run. You can do so much more.
Yes, I agree with that wholeheartedly. That, the training, because in the beginning, I got rid of a lot of low performers. Well, then all of a sudden I had all this training that I had to learn how to do with the modules and write it as I went along, but it's done now. And now I have people who can train people the way I want them trained. because there is a
Absolutely.
system there.
Yeah, and there wouldn't have been before. Otherwise, you would have had other people train other people, and then they would be at the end, and you'd be going, "Hey, how come they don't know this, and how come they don't know that, and what's going on?" And yeah, no, it's such a thing where we don't have the systems documented. We hire the wrong people, and then we don't have the systems documented, so then they don't get trained properly, and then we come back and say, "Hey, why is my business such a mess?" We pick up the slack and we come down and hold them accountable. Then they quit, and then we have to repeat the process again. And that's just not the way to run a business. So I'm loving that you've really taken these tools to heart. And you mentioned the grid, which is one of our employee tools that we have, which kind of showcases the expectations for everybody. You mentioned DISC, which is a personality assessment tool that we use as leaders to help us. I love the changes that you've made, and now that we're able just to sit here and have a conversation. Whereas, like you said, 5 months ago, you were in a breakdown mode and dealing with health challenges, and now you're in a situation where it's just a world of difference. So I just wanted to say, congratulations if no one's ever said that to you. But that you should be proud of the progress you've made, and just it's a world of difference, and I'm so proud to witness that happen, and I think there's a lot that can be learned from a story just like yours, because it's like so many others that I hear day to day, and people don't have to live in that same place that you live for so long when there's a different way to do it.
Yep. I would say if you're on the fence, whether you should do this or not, jump in all way. You'll be thankful that you did it.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for chatting with us today. And if anyone ever wants to get some great barbecue, where can people find you?
We are in Bloomington, Illinois, right in the middle of the state.
Perfect. What's the name?
Annie's Eats, Carry Out, and Catering.
Beautiful. Awesome, guys. Well, if you are interested in jumping in and having a conversation with our team, we will leave the link in the show notes. Or if not, we will send you some free resources and things that can help out. As Ann mentioned, she got a lot of trainings, a lot of emails in advance of working with us. So we're happy to do the same thing for you guys. But again, Ann, thank you for being here. And I just can't wait to see what's in store for you in 2025.
Thanks.
Right. Bye, guys. This episode is brought to you by Ownership Training, where we help restaurant owners increase their profits while spending more time with their family. And if you want to know exactly what it would take to grow your profit margin to 15% and beyond while spending more time with your family, my team has a few spots open this week for a free 15-minute restaurant assessment call. Just click the book a call link in the description, and we'll show you the exact frameworks we're using to help our clients do this in as little as 6 to 8 weeks. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.